From the moment Marissa turned 12, she knew her place in the family. Not at the center, that spot belonged to her brother Daniel, but somewhere in the shadows, watching from the corner. "Look at Daniel's report card," her mother would announce at dinner, waving the paper like a winning lottery ticket. "All A's again? He's going places." Marissa would smile and nod, her own B-plus report card tucked away in her backpack. No one asked to see it anyway. Years passed this way. Daniel got into a prestigious university with a scholarship. Marissa's art school applications were met with tight smiles and concerned glances between her parents. "Art won't pay the bills," her father said, sliding her application aside. "Maybe try something practical, like accounting." When Marissa failed to get into university after high school, the whispers turned into open mockery. "You had one job," her mother said one night, not bothering to lower her voice. "Even Daniel helped pay his tuition. What do you contribute?" The table went quiet. Marissa stared at her plate, fork suspended midair. No one spoke up. No one defended her. That silence became the soundtrack of her life. On her 23rd birthday, Marissa woke up early. Maybe today would be different. She made coffee and waited in the kitchen. Her mother rushed in, car keys jingling. "I'm heading to the store. We need to prepare for Daniel's promotion party next week." "Mom, do you know what day it is?" Marissa asked quietly. Her mother checked her phone calendar. "Thursday? Oh, I need to pick up the cake order too." "It's my birthday," Marissa said. Her mother's face froze for a second. "Oh, right. Happy birthday, honey. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay?" They never did. That night, Marissa watched her mother hang Daniel's new achievement photo on the living room wall. Her own watercolor painting, the one that won a local contest, sat in a cardboard box in the basement. She was invisible, but not for much longer. 2 years later, Marissa's phone lit up with Daniel's name. They hadn't spoken in months. "Big news," his voice boomed through the speaker. "I'm being promoted to senior project manager. The company's throwing me a celebration dinner at the Grand Hotel. You'll be there, right?" Marissa hesitated, twisting the string of her apron. Around her, the small apartment smelled of melting wax and essential oils. Her secret passion. "When is it?" she asked. "Next Friday at 7. Wear something nice." Everyone will be there. Everyone. That meant her parents, relatives, Daniel's friends, all the people who looked at her with that mixture of pity and disappointment. "I'll try," she said. After hanging up, Marissa turned back to her workbench. Dozens of handmade candles lined the shelves. Lavender, sandalwood, vanilla bean. Her little business, light within, barely paid the bills. 3 online orders this week. Not enough. But it was hers. Something she built without anyone's approval or help. For days, Marissa debated whether to attend the dinner. Each morning, she checked her bank account. 267.43. Not enough for a new dress. Not if she wanted to buy more supplies for next month's candles. Then an email arrived. A customer had ordered 2 dozen candles for a wedding. $480. A sign? Marissa withdrew $150, money she couldn't afford to spend, and bought a simple navy dress that made her feel almost confident. Standing before the mirror, she practiced her smile. "I'm doing fine," she whispered to her reflection. "I'm building something." What her family didn't know, what no one knew, was that Marissa had been teaching herself business skills at night. Marketing, photography, accounting. Her Etsy shop had just hit 100 sales. Small, but growing. She pinned her hair up, applied lipstick, and took a deep breath. Just one night, she told herself. Smile, congratulate Daniel, then leave. But deep inside, a storm was brewing. This dinner would change everything, just not in the way anyone expected. The Grand Hotel gleamed under golden chandeliers, a pianist playing softly in the corner. Marissa's hands trembled as she handed her worn coat to the attendant. All around her, people in designer clothes laughed and clinked champagne glasses. She spotted her family immediately, her mother in a new dress, her father beaming with pride, and Daniel at the center, soaking up attention like a sponge. No one noticed her enter. "You made it," Daniel finally said, giving her a quick side hug. His cologne was expensive, overwhelming. "I wasn't sure you would." "Wouldn't miss it," Marissa replied, forcing a smile. Her mother glanced at her navy dress, the one that had emptied her bank account, and gave a tight smile. "You look nice." For an hour, Marissa stood at the edge of conversations, nursing a single glass of champagne. No one asked about her life. No one wondered what she'd been doing these past months. She was furniture, present but unnoticed. Then came the moment. The company CEO tapped his glass, and the room quieted. "We're here to celebrate Daniel Cole's exceptional achievement," he announced. "In just 4 years, he's become our youngest senior project manager." Applause filled the room. Daniel stepped forward, confidence radiating from his pressed suit to his perfect smile. "I wouldn't be here without my family," he began. "My parents taught me the value of hard work and excellence." More applause. Marissa clapped along, waiting for this to be over. "And of course," Daniel continued, his eyes finding her in the crowd, "my sister Marissa, our family's free spirit." The spotlight swung to her, faces turned, glasses paused mid-sip. "No degree, no corporate ladder," Daniel chuckled, "but plenty of free time." Laughter rippled through the room. Even her parents smiled, as if this joke at her expense was the evening's entertainment. Marissa froze. The champagne in her stomach turned to acid. She looked around the table. Not one person looked uncomfortable. Not one person defended her. Her mother caught her eye and gave a small shrug, as if to say, "What did you expect?" In that moment, something inside Marissa, something that had bent and bent for years, finally broke. The laughter continued, the pianist played on, and Marissa made a decision that would change everything. The room buzzed with laughter. Daniel raised his glass high. "To family," he proclaimed. "To family," the crowd echoed. Marissa stood slowly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. The sound cut through the chatter like a knife. She reached for her champagne glass, her movements deliberate, unhurried. The laughter faded. Curious eyes turned toward her. Her mother's smile faltered. "Marissa, what are you—" "I'd like to make a toast, too," Marissa said, her voice steady despite the earthquake in her chest. Daniel's smile tightened. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't her moment. "To family," Marissa began, raising her glass. The crystal caught the light, sending prisms dancing across the white tablecloth. "To family who only celebrate success when it looks like theirs." The pianist's fingers stilled. A waiter paused mid-step. "To brothers who think humility is weakness," she continued, her eyes locked on Daniel's. "And to parents who raised one child and tolerated the other." Her mother's face drained of color. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Marissa, that's enough," he whispered harshly. But it wasn't enough. Not after years of silence. Not after years of disappearing. "This is the last time any of you will see me like this," she said, her voice clear in the stunned quiet. "The next time you hear my name, remember this silence." She raised her glass higher, took a small sip, and set it down with a gentle clink. Then, without rushing, without tears, Marissa gathered her purse and walked toward the exit. Her heels clicked against the floor, the only sound in the room. At the door, she paused and looked back. 50 faces stared at her, frozen in shock. Her family, strangers, waiters, all perfectly still, as if someone had pressed pause on the entire scene. The room had gone completely silent. Marissa stepped out into the cool night air and closed the door behind her. For the first time in her life, she had been seen, and for the first time, she didn't care what they thought. The morning after the dinner, Marissa woke before sunrise. Her phone showed 17 missed calls, 5 from her mother, 8 from Daniel, 4 from her father. 23 text messages blinked on her screen. She turned the phone off. By noon, she had packed 2 suitcases. By evening, she had signed a lease on a tiny studio apartment across town, far from her family's neighborhood, far from their judgment. "You're really not going to call them back?" her only friend Tara asked as they carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs. What would I say? Marissa replied. Sorry I ruined your perfect night by telling the truth. For weeks, her family assumed she was just embarrassed. They left voicemails predicting she'd come crawling back once she got over herself. This little tantrum needs to end, her mother said in message 12. Daniel's reputation at work is at stake. Marissa deleted them all. Instead of responding, she poured everything into her candle business. She worked 18-hour days, perfecting scents, designing labels, photographing products. Her hands cracked from the constant work with hot wax. Her eyes burned from staying up late researching marketing strategies. When her parents showed up at her old apartment, the landlord told them she'd moved out. When they called her old workplace, they learned she'd quit weeks ago. Marissa Cole had vanished. 3 months after the dinner, her father left a final voicemail. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Stop punishing us and come home. Marissa listened to it twice, then blocked their numbers. That night, she sat alone in her small studio, surrounded by drying candles and shipping boxes. On her laptop screen, her Etsy shop showed 30 orders waiting to be fulfilled, more than she'd ever had at once. She wasn't punishing them. She was building something they couldn't diminish, something they couldn't laugh at, something that would eventually make that room go silent again, but for very different reasons. 6 months after walking out of Daniel's celebration, Marissa's phone pinged with an Instagram notification. She nearly dropped the candle she was packaging. Lifestyle with Lauren had tagged her small business in a post. Lauren Wilson, a lifestyle influencer with over 2 million followers, had featured light within candles in her Small Businesses You Need to Know series. The post showed Lauren in her sunlit apartment, Marissa's sea salt and jasmine candle burning beside her. These hand-poured candles aren't just products, they're experiences, the caption read. Each one tells a story. Support this amazing female entrepreneur. Within hours, Marissa's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Order notifications flooded her inbox. 50, then 100, then 200. By midnight, her entire inventory was sold out, and pre-orders kept coming. This is insane, she whispered to her empty apartment. For the next week, Marissa barely slept. She mixed wax until her arms ached, poured until her fingers blistered, packaged until dawn broke through her small window. When she couldn't keep up alone, she hired 2 art students from the local college to help. Then came an email from Bloom Boutique, a chain of upscale gift shops. We'd like to stock your candles in our stores. Marissa read the email 5 times before believing it was real. By month 8, she had moved her operation from her apartment to a small warehouse space. Light Within now employed 6 people. Her candles were in 15 stores across the state. One rainy Tuesday, Marissa sat at her desk, reviewing paperwork for her business registration. She paused at the company name field. Light Within had served her well, but something about it felt too small for what she was building. She thought about that night at the Grand Hotel, about her family's laughter, about the silence that followed her exit. With steady hands, she typed, Coal and Ember Co., a subtle nod to the family name, but with her own twist. Coal burns to ember. Destruction leads to creation. As she signed the papers, Marissa realized something. Her family still had no idea. They thought she was hiding, licking her wounds. They had no clue she was building an empire. And that made her next move all the more powerful. 1 year after Marissa's exit from the family, Daniel's perfect life began to crack. It started with whispers around the office, numbers that didn't add up, reports that seemed too good to be true. The company's internal audit team began asking questions about Project Horizon, Daniel's crowning achievement. It's just routine, Daniel assured his team, straightening his tie in the elevator mirror. Nothing to worry about. 3 days later, security escorted him from the building. His access card deactivated, his company email shut down. The local business journal ran the story on page 3. Coal engineering team under investigation for data falsification. Daniel's name appeared 4 times in the article. The same relatives who once worshipped him now exchanged concerned texts. The same friends who laughed at his jokes suddenly couldn't make dinner plans. The golden child's shine had dulled overnight. At his parents' house, the mood shifted from shock to panic. "It's a misunderstanding," his mother insisted, pacing the kitchen. "They'll sort it out." But weeks passed and Daniel's suspension continued. Without his income, his parents struggled to maintain appearances. The mortgage payment fell behind. Credit card bills piled up. The dinner parties stopped. Daniel moved back home, occupying his old bedroom, the large one with the bay window and private bathroom, the one Marissa had never been allowed to have. He spent days in sweatpants, blinds drawn, scrolling through job listings that wouldn't call him back, his confidence, once bulletproof, now punctured and deflating. "Have you heard from your sister?" he asked his mother one evening. She shook her head. "Not a word. She's still being childish about that dinner." Daniel nodded, but something in his expression shifted. For the first time, he wondered if Marissa had been right to walk away. That night, he found himself searching online. Marissa Cole artist. Nothing relevant appeared. Marissa Cole candles. Still nothing. What he didn't know was that his sister had stopped using her first name in business. What he didn't know was that Cole and Ember Co. had just signed a contract with a national retailer. What he didn't know was that the tables were about to turn in ways no one in the family could have predicted. 13 months after leaving her family behind, Marissa sat in her new office, reviewing the quarterly sales report. Cole and Ember Co. had grown beyond her wildest dreams. 28 employees, products in over 50 stores, and an online presence that kept growing. Her assistant knocked on the door. "This just came for you." The envelope was cream-colored, heavy paper with gold embossing. Hope Foundation Annual Charity Gala. Marissa opened it, scanning the formal invitation. "The Hope Foundation requests the honor of your presence at our annual charity gala, celebrating businesses making a difference in our community." This year's theme, Rising from Adversity. She almost laughed at the irony. Then she noticed the venue, the Grand Hotel, the exact same place where Daniel had humiliated her, where she had walked out, where everything had changed. "Will you attend?" her assistant asked. Marissa stared at the invitation. The foundation wanted Cole and Ember Co. to be featured in their charity auction. They'd selected her business as an example of female entrepreneurship and community impact. Her first instinct was to decline. Why revisit the scene of her humiliation? But then she realized, this wasn't about her family. This wasn't about revenge. This was about coming full circle. "Yes," she said finally. "Order me a new dress, something in cream." That evening, Marissa received an email from the foundation's director. "We're thrilled you'll be joining us. We've also invited several local business leaders and their families to attend." Attached was the guest list. Marissa scrolled through the names, stopping at one that made her heart skip. Daniel Cole plus 2 guests. Of course, despite his professional troubles, Daniel still moved in these circles. And where Daniel went, her parents followed. For a moment, Marissa considered backing out. She'd built her new life without them. Did she really need to face them again? Then she remembered the silence that followed her exit that night. The way no one had defended her. The years of being invisible. "Confirm my attendance," she wrote back to the foundation. "I wouldn't miss it." This time, when she walked into that ballroom, it wouldn't be as Daniel's forgotten sister. It would be as Marissa Cole, founder and CEO of Cole and Ember Co. And this time, she wouldn't be the one left speechless. The night of the charity gala arrived with a gentle snowfall. Marissa stepped out of her company car, not a taxi this time, and handed her keys to the valet. The same Grand Hotel stood before her, but everything else had changed. She wore a tailored cream suit that cost more than her parents' monthly mortgage. Her hair was styled professionally, her makeup subtle but flawless. A small gold pin with the Cole and Ember Cumber logo adorned her lapel. "Ms. Cole, welcome," the foundation director greeted her at the entrance. "We're so honored to have you. Your display table is near the front, prime location." Marissa nodded. taking a deep breath before stepping through those familiar doors. The ballroom looked exactly as she remembered: crystal chandeliers, marble floors, white-clothed tables. But this time, heads turned for a different reason. People whispered as she passed, not with mockery, but recognition. "That's her, the founder of Coal and Ember. Her candles are in every celebrity gift bag this season. Did you read her feature in Business Monthly?" Marissa moved through the crowd with practiced confidence, shaking hands, accepting business cards. She was halfway across the room when she saw them. Her parents stood near the bar, older than she remembered. Her father's hair had grayed completely. Her mother clutched her purse with white knuckles, eyes darting nervously around the room. And there was Daniel, thinner. His expensive suit replaced by something off the rack, his golden boy shine dimmed to a dull glow. For a moment, no one moved. Then her mother spotted her. Recognition dawned slowly, followed by confusion, then shock. Her mother nudged her father, who turned and froze mid-sip. Marissa could have avoided them, could have stayed on the other side of the room all night. Instead, she walked directly toward them, her steps measured and calm. "Hello," she said simply. Her mother's mouth opened and closed. Her father cleared his throat twice. "Marissa," her mother finally managed, "you've done well." The understatement almost made Marissa laugh. "Thank you," she replied coolly. Daniel stared at her, his expression unreadable. "You're with Coal and Ember?" he asked, gesturing to her pin. "I am Coal and Ember," Marissa corrected him. The foundation director appeared at her elbow. "Ms. Coal, we're ready for your speech now." Her family's eyes widened in unison. "Speech?" her father echoed. "Yes," Marissa said, straightening her suit jacket. "I'm tonight's keynote speaker." She turned away from their stunned faces, following the director to the stage. Behind her, she heard her mother's whispered question to Daniel. "Did you know about this?" And for the second time in that ballroom, Marissa left her family speechless. The spotlight found Marissa as she took the stage. 300 faces looked up at her: business leaders, community figures, and somewhere in the back, her family. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady. "I'm Marissa Coal, founder of Coal and Ember Co." The crowd applauded. Someone whistled. A far cry from the laughter that had followed Daniel's mockery in this very room. 2 years ago, I started making candles in my apartment with $200 and a YouTube tutorial," she continued. "Today, we employ 32 people, support sustainable farming practices for our ingredients, and donate 10% of profits to women's education programs." More applause. Marissa caught sight of her mother leaning forward, hanging on every word. "But this isn't a story about candles," Marissa said. "It's about finding light when others only see darkness. It's about building something when everyone tells you to quit." She didn't look directly at her family, but her words found them anyway. Sometimes the people closest to you can't see your potential. Sometimes you have to walk away from their limitations to discover your own strength. The room was silent now, captivated. "Coal and Ember exists because I stopped waiting for permission to succeed. I stopped needing approval to believe in myself." As she finished her speech, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Business cards appeared from pockets. Investors lined up to speak with her. Through the crowd, Marissa spotted Daniel watching from a distance, his expression a complex mixture of pride and regret. Their parents stood beside him, whispering urgently. The foundation director presented Marissa with an award, a crystal flame symbolizing rising talent. Photographers captured the moment. Tomorrow, her face would be in the business section of the newspaper, the same paper her father read every morning with his coffee. When the formal program ended, Marissa moved through the room, accepting congratulations, discussing potential partnerships. She was no longer furniture. She was the centerpiece. Her family didn't approach her again. They watched from the periphery, witnesses to her triumph, but no longer participants in her story. As the evening wound down, Marissa collected her coat from the attendant, the same one who had taken her worn jacket 2 years ago. "Wonderful speech, Miss Cole," he said, recognizing her now. "Thank you," she replied with a genuine smile. She walked out of the Grand Hotel, not in tears or anger, but with quiet dignity, not running away this time, but moving forward. The revenge wasn't in confrontation or harsh words. It was in her success, in her growth, in the life she'd built without them. And that was sweeter than any planned retribution could ever be. 3 weeks after the charity gala, Marissa was reviewing production schedules when her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "There's a Daniel Cole here to see you. No appointment." Marissa's fingers froze over her keyboard. She glanced at the framed magazine cover on her wall, her first major feature in Business Monthly. "Send him in," she said finally. The door opened, and Daniel stepped into her office. Gone was the confident stride, the perfect posture. His shoulders hunched slightly, his eyes darting around the room, taking in the awards on her shelves, the view from her window. "Nice place," he said, his voice smaller than she remembered. "Thank you," Marissa replied, not offering him a seat. "What brings you here, Daniel?" He shifted his weight, hands deep in his pockets. His suit was wrinkled, his tie slightly askew. "I lost my job," he admitted. "Permanently. The investigation concluded last week." Marissa nodded, waiting. This wasn't news to her. She'd read about it in the business section. "Did you falsify the data?" she asked directly. Daniel flinched. "I overlooked some inconsistencies. I didn't create them, but I didn't stop them either. I wanted the project to succeed so badly." The irony wasn't lost on Marissa. The golden child had fallen, tarnished by his own ambition. "I've been applying everywhere," he continued. "No callbacks. Word spreads fast in this industry." "What do you want from me, Daniel?" Marissa asked, her voice neutral. Not cruel, not kind, just direct. He looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time. "I didn't come to ask for anything. I came to say I'm sorry." The words hung in the air between them. "I didn't mean to humiliate you that night," he continued. "I was showing off, trying to be funny. I didn't think—" "That's just it," Marissa interrupted. "You didn't think. None of you ever thought about how your words affected me." Daniel nodded, accepting the truth of it. "I was jealous," he admitted quietly. "Jealous?" Marissa couldn't hide her surprise. "Of what?" "Your freedom. Your courage to pursue what you loved, even when everyone told you not to." He gestured around her office. "Looks like you were right all along." Marissa studied her brother, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time in years. Behind the failure and regret, she saw something unexpected: respect. Silence filled Marissa's office as she considered her brother's words. Outside her window, the city hummed with afternoon traffic. Inside, years of hurt and resentment hung in the balance. "Sit down," she said finally, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Daniel sat, his movements careful, as if afraid to take up too much space in her world. "Do you know what I remember most about that night?" Marissa asked. "Not your joke, not even walking out. I remember that no one defended me, not one person." Daniel looked down at his hands. "I know. Mom and Dad called me for months afterward," she continued. "Not to apologize, to tell me I was overreacting, that I was hurting the family by staying away." "They don't understand what they did," Daniel said quietly. "They still don't." Marissa leaned back in her chair, studying him. "And you? Do you understand?" "I'm starting to," he replied. "Losing everything has a way of clearing your vision." She nodded, then reached for a folder on her desk. She opened it, revealing a company organizational chart. "We're expanding," she said. "Opening a second production facility next month. I need someone to manage supplier relationships." Daniel's eyes widened slightly. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an interview," Marissa corrected him. "The position requires attention to detail, integrity, and humility. The pay is less than you're used to. The hours are long." "Why would you do this?" Daniel asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Marissa thought for a moment. Not about forgiveness. She wasn't there yet. Not about family obligation. She'd freed herself from that burden. Because there's always room for someone willing to start over, she said finally. The question is, are you that person? Daniel straightened in his chair, a flash of his old confidence returning, but tempered now, more genuine. Yes, he said simply. I am. Marissa handed him the job description. Interview is Monday at 9 a.m. Come prepared to talk about sustainable sourcing and ethical business practices. As Daniel stood to leave, he paused at the door. Marissa, that night at the hotel, when you walked out, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. She allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't brave, Daniel. It was necessary. After he left, Marissa turned to the window, watching the city below. This wasn't about forgiveness. It wasn't even about family. It was about becoming someone who could offer others the chance she never had. Daniel had been working at Coal and Ember for 3 weeks when Marissa's assistant delivered the news. Your parents are in the lobby. They don't have an appointment. Marissa's stomach tightened. She'd known this day would come eventually. Send them up, she said, closing her laptop. They entered like strangers, tentative, eyes wide as they took in her corner office with its wall of windows and modern furniture. Her mother clutched her purse like a shield. Her father's hands fidgeted at his sides. This is impressive, her father said, his voice strained with forced casualness. Marissa gestured to the sitting area. Please, have a seat. They perched on the edge of the sofa, out of place in her world. The power shift was palpable, uncomfortable for them, validating for her. We've seen Daniel, her mother began. He says he's working for you now. He's working for Coal and Ember, Marissa corrected, and doing well so far. Her father cleared his throat. We didn't know about your business. All this time we thought... You thought I was hiding, Marissa finished for him, licking my wounds. Her mother flinched at the directness. Why didn't you tell us? She asked. The question hung in the air, so absurd that Marissa almost laughed. When would I have told you? During one of your lectures about my wasted potential, or maybe when you were comparing me to Daniel's achievements. Her father's face flushed. We always wanted what was best for you. No, Marissa said firmly. You wanted what was easiest to understand, art, creativity, building something from nothing. Those things scared you. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. We're your parents. We deserve to be part of your life. Marissa took a deep breath. Being my parents gave you responsibility, not entitlement. You didn't see me then. You don't get automatic access to me now. The silence that followed was heavy with decades of misunderstanding. Your candles, her father said finally, gesturing to the display shelf. They're beautiful. I never really looked at them before. It was the closest thing to an apology she'd ever heard from him. Would you like to see the workshop? Marissa asked, not ready to forgive, but willing to open a door. As she led them through her company, her creation, Marissa watched her father's face. He stared at the useless hobbies that had built an empire, and for the first time she saw something new in his eyes. Respect. 6 months after hiring Daniel, Marissa stood backstage at the Women in Business conference. Through the curtain, she could see 800 seats filled with entrepreneurs, students, and business leaders. 5 minutes, Ms. Cole, the event coordinator said. Marissa nodded, adjusting her blazer. Public speaking had become part of her job, but this speech felt different, more personal. The topic, building success from rejection. As she reviewed her notes, a text message lit up her phone. We're here, 3rd row center, proud of you. It was from Daniel. He'd been bringing their parents to company events gradually, rebuilding bridges at a careful pace. Today would be their first time hearing her speak. The lights dimmed. The host announced her name. Applause filled the auditorium as Marissa walked onto the stage. Under the bright lights, she found them immediately. Daniel in the center, her parents on either side. Her mother wore a Coal and Ember scarf, the company logo visible even from the stage. Thank you for that warm welcome, Marissa began. 2 years ago, I stood in a hotel ballroom much like this one, listening to people laugh at my expense. The audience quieted. That night, I made a choice that changed everything. I walked away from people who couldn't see my value. I stopped trying to fit into a story that wasn't written for me. From the third row, her mother watched intently, hands clasped tight in her lap. Rejection can destroy you, or it can define you, Marissa continued. The difference lies in what you build from its ashes. She shared the journey, the tiny apartment filled with candles, the late nights learning marketing, the first big order that changed everything. Success isn't just about proving others wrong, she said. It's about proving yourself right. It's about building something so authentic that even those who dismissed you can't deny its worth. Her father shifted in his seat, eyes never leaving her face. The hardest lesson I've learned is this. Sometimes family won't see your worth until the world does. But your value isn't something they define. It's something you prove, quietly, until they have no choice but to respect it. In the third row, Daniel wiped a tear from his cheek. Today, I run a company that employs 40 people. We're expanding internationally next month, and yes, my family is here today. She paused, meeting her mother's gaze directly. Not because I finally became who they wanted me to be, but because they finally saw who I always was. The applause was thunderous. As Marissa took her bow, she noticed her father standing first, clapping with uncharacteristic enthusiasm. The invisible daughter had become impossible to ignore. 1 year after Daniel joined Cole and Ember, Marissa stood in her childhood home for the first time in nearly 4 years. The living room had changed. Her mother had redecorated with softer colors, warmer tones, but the biggest change hung on the wall where Daniel's achievements had once dominated. Now, framed magazine covers featuring Marissa shared the space. Her Business Leader of the Year award sat on the mantel. A collection of coal and ember candles adorned the coffee table. "Dinner's ready," her mother called from the kitchen. Marissa followed the voice, finding her family gathered around the dining table, the same one where she'd endured countless silent meals. Tonight, it was set with care, her favorite foods, candles lit, wine poured. Daniel pulled out her chair, the head of the table, her father's old spot. "The guest of honor," he said with a genuine smile. Her father, now retired and softer around the edges, raised his glass. "To Marissa, and the national expansion of Coal and Ember." They clinked glasses. No tension, no comparison, no invisible daughter. "The New York Times called yesterday," Marissa said, serving herself salad. "They're running a feature on female entrepreneurs who changed their industries. They want to interview me next week." "That's wonderful," her mother said, the pride in her voice still new, still healing old wounds. Daniel, now Coal and Ember's operations director, added, "The London distributor confirmed too, we're officially international." Conversation flowed easily, about business strategies, upcoming projects, Daniel's new apartment. No one mentioned the years of silence. No one needed to. After dinner, Marissa helped her mother clear the dishes, a simple act that felt profound in its normalcy. "I found something," her mother said quietly, pulling a box from a cabinet. "Your old sketchbooks, the ones with your candle designs from high school." Marissa opened the box, finding drawings she'd forgotten, early versions of what would become her signature products. "You kept these?" she asked, surprised. Her mother nodded, eyes downcast. "I always kept everything. I just didn't know how to show I was proud of things I didn't understand." It wasn't a complete apology, but it was honest. Growth, not perfection. Later, as Marissa prepared to leave, her father walked her to the door. "You know," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "when you were little, you used to say you wanted to build something that would light up the world." Marissa smiled, remembering. "I did, didn't I?" "I thought it was just a child's dream," he continued. "I was wrong. You literally built a company that lights up people's homes." He hugged her then, awkwardly but sincerely. As Marissa drove away, she glanced in her rearview mirror. Her parents stood in the doorway, waving. Daniel beside them, the three of them framed in warm light. The room that once went silent had found its voice again. Different now. Better. Not because she'd come back, but because she'd left, built something extraordinary, and returned on her own terms.